Hey guys, in this video I'm gonna guide you through building your own agentic app, an app that understands the user and learns from their behavior. I'll show you how to convert an idea into an agentic workflow using AX principles. Then I'll show you how to create n8n automations to make the app work, all without knowing how to code. Plus, I'll give you a data file that I created. It's a data set to train your own Chatgpt to build n8n automations. I'll give you everything you need so that you are set up to build your own agentic app. Hi, my name is Jad. I lead a community of product builders pushing the boundaries of AI. And after building so many agentic apps, I distilled all of the information to help anyone build a complete agentic app from scratch. If you've seen my previous videos on AX design, you might have an idea on how to start, but I approach each product differently based on the idea. And since I use n8n to build all my agentic apps, I partnered with Hostinger again to bring you this guide. It's the easiest and cheapest way to self-host your own n8n server. More about that later in the video. So in this video, I'm creating an agentic recipes app. I'm calling it AI Chef. The idea is to have an app that learns the user's preferences over time and generates recipes based on user input and historic learning data combined. So the user can input text and images, and the agent takes care of the rest to come up with a recipe that matches the user's preferences. Let's jump in. So this is the AX flowchart that explains the whole flow of the agentic app. This explains the user's perspective and the AI functionality. So we start from onboarding because this is an essential step for the AI to understand user preferences before having any initial data. So with the onboarding, you can enter your dietary or culinary preferences, and then the app will have a user input which can have text, images, or voice. And I'll highlight the AX principles that we're using here. And then we have a dynamic button that can be either submit or generate a random recipe if you don't have any input data here. And then we have autonomy, where the agent will work on its own in the background. It will analyze the prompt data and then will analyze the database for historic data, and it will generate the recipe. And then we have the output, which is a detailed recipe. And then we have the human in the loop phase, which is the control and oversight AX principle. This is where the user decides if they want to save it, edit it, rate it, or generate another one. And then we have the learning step, which is essential for all AX applications. This is where the AI agent will learn from the user to adjust the preferences for future generations. Additionally, I'll show you what else I included in my plan for this app, because it's very essential to plan this thoroughly before you start building it. So next up, we have the UX journey. I built this from the user's perspective, regardless of what's happening in the background, without any technical details. So this is an example what the user will go through. And you can see here that after onboarding and input, you jump to output. You don't see any of the steps happening in the background. And then I created a framework for the AI agent. And this is important because you need to set the limits and the scope for the AI agent to work with. So here I'm setting what the input looks like for the AI agent. It's going to look at the database and at the user prompt. And then we have the instructions for the AI agent, what to do with this information, and what's the format of the output that we want out of the agent. And the third part of this agentic framework is the learning part. Then I planned the core UI components. This is the final step in my planning, where I'm defining what each UI component includes so that we can build it accurately to cover all of the requirements. This way we have clear building blocks to work with. And now let's get into the fun stuff, building the automations. To get you set up, you need two things. You need an n8n account and the training data to teach Chatgpt how to use the latest version of n8n. Let me quickly show you how to set up your own n8n server for the lowest cost possible. It's super easy. I have a link in the description that will take you to the Hostinger VPS plan dedicated for n8n. It will cost you around $5 per month for the KVM1 plan, but I went for the KVM2, which is more than enough for what I need because I'm building a lot of agentic apps. And this is a very cheap price compared to the $24 per month you will pay if you go through n8n directly. And with Hostinger, you get full access to the n8n experience. So here you choose your plan. And then when you're checking out, don't forget to enter my coupon code AI Tooltip. It will give you an additional discount. You can use my code for the 12 months and the 24 months plan. This is a no-brainer for me. It allowed me to build as many agentic apps as I want. And once you sign up, you will see your VPS activity page, and then you can click on Manage App at the top to go to the n8n platform. And then just follow the process to create your account, and you're good to go. Now, to start building the automations with n8n, you need to know the basics of how the interface works. Then we will work with Chatgpt to build the workflow. In my previous AX video, I covered the basics of how the interface works. You can check out that video. But to quickly go through it now, just click on Create Workflow at the top, and then you will have your interface where your automations will work. All you need to do here is set up the trigger and the automations that you need. So for me, because I'm working with building a UI for these automations, I always work with a webhook trigger. A webhook trigger is like a link that the UI will call, and it will allow the UI to communicate with your n8n automations. So all you have to do here is click add and then search for webhook. And here in your webhook, you will see a link, and this is your unique link that will allow the UI to communicate with this specific webhook. So all you have to do is copy this link and give it to your UI generator. If you're working with Lovable, it will understand how to use this link to communicate with n8n. So for this specific project, I created 3 workflows here. I have the AI chef ingest. This is the main workflow that will grab all the information from the UI and from the database and generate recipes. Then I will push back the data that I need for the UI to display. So here after the webhook, we have the first node that will load the history from my Google Sheets database. And this is what it looks like. You don't need to worry about understanding how to set all of this up because Chatgpt will tell you how. I'll show you in a bit. But what you need to understand here is that the incoming data is on the left side and the output data is on the right side. So here you can see all of the data that's coming from the UI. And then this node is pulling data from my Google Sheets database and then outputting the data that I need. And the next step is parsing all of that data in order to communicate with the AI. So here you can see the data coming in. And we have some JavaScript code here, and the output is simple data that the AI will understand. Then we have the AI node here, and we set it up by giving it a system prompt. This will instruct the AI model to output data in a very specific format that we can work with. And for the user prompt here, I'm pulling the data from the user prompt from the UI. So when the AI here works, it will output all of these perfectly formatted data points that are gonna go back to the UI in a very organized manner. You can see here I have all of the recipe ingredients and steps and all of the information for the recipe organized in data points. And then after that, we have another code node that will organize the output data again so that we can display it in the UI. And then we have a step to save all of this to the database. And finally, another node to push everything back to the UI. I know this looks complicated, but when you work with Chatgpt, it will tell you exactly what to do. And it's such a good feeling when everything works. You can see here all my nodes are green. That means they worked properly. And then I have another workflow. This is specifically just for rating the recipes. So it will go through to find that specific recipe in the database, and then it will update it with the rating. And then my third workflow here is just for getting the history of the recipes to show all of the recipes to the user in the UI. Now to do all of this, I worked with Chatgpt to build it, but I had a hard time at the beginning when I started doing this because I noticed that Chatgpt wasn't giving me the correct instructions because it trained on very old data and it's not the most updated in terms of what the n8n interface looks like at the moment. So I went and scraped all of the information from the n8n documentation and the n8n GitHub, and I merged it all in one document that you can give to ChatGPT. That way it will have the most updated information on n8n. I included that file in the description so you can download it for your own. All you have to do is grab that file, start a new project with ChatGPT, give it a name. And here you can click the Add Files button. And all you have to do is just drop your file here. And this version of ChatGPT will know exactly how to build n8n automations. And now you're all set up to start building the automations. So here's what I did. I gave it a screenshot of the whole plan that I built. And I asked for instructions to build the automations with n8n the simplest way possible. And I also said, start with the first step. Then when I'm done, I'll tell you to move to the next step. And before we start, ask me if you have any questions. This is essential because there might be a lot of assumptions in my plan that I didn't think very thoroughly about. So you always need to validate everything before you start. So here ChatGPT is going to ask questions and then it will give me the first step of the plan. I don't want to see the whole plan. I just want to see the first step because I want it to be very detailed. If you ask for the whole plan at once, it will be a very high level plan without details on each node. But when you ask for just the first step, it will give you very detailed instructions to build each node. So here it asked me some questions, and once I answered the questions, it gave me the first step. So I followed exactly what it said. I added the nodes and I added the details, the code snippets and everything in each node. So for example, here when it says add a function node, that means it's a code node, and that would be this node here. If you double click on it, you can see the code that I pasted here exactly from within ChatGPT. So just simply follow the steps and it will be very easy. And you will probably get stuck at some point. Like here, I got stuck with something. So I asked it, what do I select here for the webhook node? Because I had a few options and I didn't know exactly which one it was referring to. So it answered. And once I built the main flow, what did I do? I asked it for a prompt to build the app with Lovable, because now I want to be able to test this workflow, but there's no way for me to test it unless I have a UI. So this is where you start building the UI. It gave me a really detailed prompt to give to Lovable so that I can build the UI with Lovable while having it communicate with my n8n automations. So I copied this detailed prompt and I built it with an AI coding tool. I used Manus here because I had a lot of credits in Manus and I don't want this to be a production app. So if you're going for a production app, my recommendation is to go with Lovable. It will have the best structure for your app and it will allow you to publish and integrate databases and stuff like that. But for me, I'm testing the app, so I built it with Manus. And here you can see the history of my conversation with Manus. I entered the prompt that ChatGPT gave me. And Manus here went on to include all of my webhook links and the dynamic UI so that my n8n can communicate with the UI perfectly. It gave me a UI here and it tested it, and then I was able to start testing the automations from my UI here. So now that I have the UI ready to be able to test it, I need to go back to my n8n workflow, and here, because you are still in testing mode, you have to click on execute workflow and it will show you that it's waiting for the call to be made from the UI. And now, since it started listening, I can go to the UI and test this workflow. I'll click here and enter beef, for example. I'll say generate recipe. And then here I can see that it's working through this workflow properly. So it's properly connected. And now it's working to generate the recipe. And once it's all green, that means it's working. Back in the UI, you can see that I have a full recipe displayed in the interface. And this recipe is based on my preferences and my history and my rating for each recipe that I made in the past. And to verify that it's working properly, you can go to your database that you created for this project, and you can see that the recipe is saved here in the database. And now if I want to rate this recipe, I'm gonna go back to the rating workflow. I'll say execute, and here I will rate it, let's say 2. And back in my database, I can see this recipe and it has a rating of 2. So everything is working properly. And now back in my UI for the third workflow, I have the view history button here. I'm gonna go to the history workflow and then I'll click execute workflow here. And back in the UI, I'll say view history, and it gets all of my recipes that are saved in the database. And here I can see that it executed properly. You can click on executions at the top and see all the times that you executed this workflow and the data that it gave at the bottom. And once you're done with building all of the automations and everything is working, you can then move to the production URL instead of test URL. So in your webhook, you can see here you have the test URL that you can copy. And then you can get the production URL. Now, if you copy this and give it to your AI coding tool, it will now be able to work without clicking that listen for test event button. It will work every time automatically when you click on the UI. But for this to work, you also have to make sure that you have your workflow set as active. So here I have it set on active and all of my workflows are on active. And now all I have to do is tell Manus to use the production URL instead of the test URL. Here I asked Manus to use the production webhook URLs, and it will automatically know what to do. Because the difference between a test URL and a production URL is just the word test in the link. Here you can see you have your unique link, and part of this link, it says webhook-test. And the production URL, it just says webhook. And now Manus is changing the links for me so that my app works without clicking the test button. The process to build your workflow with ChatGPT is super easy, but it will take time to build each node and the details, and to test each node if it's working, and pulling the correct data and outputting the correct data. So you can see here my conversation with ChatGPT is very long. It took me about a day to finish all of this workflow. You can see I keep giving it screenshots and it will tell me what to do. For example, here I give it a screenshot where it worked, but it wasn't saving the ingredients and the instructions. So it modified the code for me and it told me exactly what to do. It's really fun working alongside ChatGPT, especially when it's trained on n8n. It will teach you how to build, and it will teach you what each node does. Even if you don't know anything about coding, this will be great for learning to build automations. And the more you do this, the more you will adapt to thinking in an agentic way, thinking on how an AI agent can help the user and can interact with the user. So now that Manus is ready, it said here that it switched to production webhooks. Now it's using the webhook, not the webhook test. And now I can just click around in the app without using the test button in n8n. If I say view history, it will load my history. And you can go back to your history workflow here, and you will see that if they're successful and what data they're giving to the UI. But the UI is fully working. And now we can just test the app, and it should work every time. Let's say I want eggs. And there we go, it gave me a recipe for eggs based on my preferences and my history. This is what an agentic app looks like. It understands your history and your preferences, and it will adapt to give you the best output possible based on the specific user. You can always fine-tune the AI model on how much you want it to take from the history and how much you want it to take from the user's preferences and how much creativity it can have in order to give you a great recipe every time. If you get stuck or if you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments and I'll answer everything as usual. I'm creating an in-depth course for the community on AX design and everything you need to know to build amazing agentic apps every time. How to plan the foundation and how to create the scope for the AI agent, and most importantly, how to implement AX principles the right way. If you're interested, check out the link in my description for the community. And that's it for today. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you in the next video.